The Code of Ethics, a presentation by Maddie Milani, Ashley Monk, Sarah Moore, Devin Smith-Collins, and Lakeisha Suber. So, what is a Code of Ethics anyway?
Every culture endorses an ethical way to live. Following a code of ethics is actually an ethical approach. Values are our basic concepts of good and bad, or right and wrong. Values come from our society and our culture. Principles are a basic application of our values. We apply principles to specific situations in order to come up with a set of actions that we consider to be ethical. Managerial support, and especially top management support, is absolutely critical to a successful code of ethics. Personal responsibility also refers to accountability for one's own actions, so we need to identify the consequences to an employee if they violate the code of ethics. The compliance factor can identify applicable laws or industry regulations that must be adhered to as part of a code of ethics. Management always has to take the lead in being ethical, or employees will not perform.
So, with a little bit of understanding now about the Code of Ethics, according to the Arkansas Department of Education, Arkansas has played host to several cases of inappropriate and/or sexual predatory teacher and student relationships. In September 2008, the Arkansas State Board of Education adopted the Code of Ethics for Arkansas educators, and in doing so facilitated a criteria by which Arkansas educators must conduct themselves inside and outside the classroom. The Code of Ethics is essential for safeguarding the children of our state. The standards and explanation and summary. Standards 1 and 2 are presented by Ashley. An educator maintains a professional relationship with each student both in and outside the classroom. Involve yourself and your students in school activities to build relationships. Keep your private life private. Do not allow students to become involved in your normal activities outside of work and vice versa. Have a relationship with your students, but keep it professional no matter the location. Standard 2. An educator maintains competence regarding his or her professional practice, inclusive of professional and ethical behavior, skills, knowledge, dispositions, and responsibilities relating to his or her organizational position. Educator has the ability to complete tasks in a timely manner, no matter the situation that may arise. Educator can work alongside a team to solve problems or work alone in order to complete a project. Educator will keep in mind to hold themselves to a professional and ethical standard when doing any work pertaining to their job. Standards 3 and 4 are presented by Sarah. Standard 3. An educator honestly fulfills reporting obligations associated with professional practices. As a mandated reporter, the educator's first responsibility is to the safety of the students in his or her care. This includes their physical and mental health. The educator needs to be aware of the signs of abuse, neglect, bullying, and other behaviors that are harmful to the student so that they can spot a problem when it arises. The educator must know the procedures for reporting suspected problems in addition to discussing potential problems with colleagues so that others can be aware of the situation and monitor it as well. Standard 4. An educator entrusted with public funds and property, including schools, sponsored activity funds, honors that trust with honest, responsible stewardship. Educator will use funds and property fairly and for the benefit of the student or activity for which they are designated. Funds will be spent on the needs of the student's organization by the educator rather than for his or her personal benefit or professional curiosity. When funds and property include technological and social media channels, the educator will not abuse usage for their own entertainment. Proper use of funds and property should boost community trust in the educator. Standards 5 and 6 are by Devon. An educator maintains integrity regarding the acceptance of any gratuity, gift, compensation, or favor that might impair or appear to influence professional decisions or actions, and shall refrain from using the educator's position for personal gain. Small gifts are fine, but refrain from accepting over-the-top gifts. Refrain from accepting monetary gifts from parents and students. Large gifts can look like bribes and put an educator in hot water. Teaching should never be about personal gain. Standard 6. An educator keeps in confidence secure standardized test materials and results and maintains integrity regarding test administration procedures. It is up to the educator to make sure that the academic honesty is maintained. Utilizing tried and true practices is one way to protect testing integrity. For example, monitored check-in system, limited access testing sites, and limited access to testing materials. Standards 7 and 8 are presented by Lakeisha. An educator maintains the confidentiality of important information about students and colleagues obtained in the course of the educator's professional services that is protected under the state law or regulations, federal law or regulations, or the written policies of the educator's school district unless disclosure serves a professional purpose as allowed or required by laws or regulations. Educator must ensure that students' records are kept confidential. Teachers and staff should never publicly speak about private school-related issues or students or their families. Teachers should never gossip with friends, family, or even other colleagues about students' personal lives, grades, and behaviors. Standard 8. An educator, while on school premise or school-sponsored activities involving students, must refrain from using or possessing and/or being under the influence of alcohol or unauthorized drugs and substances, and/or possessing items prohibited by the law. Possessing or using tobacco or tobacco-related products, e-cigarettes, e-liquids, or vapor products. Abusing, misusing prescription medication or other unauthorized substances as evidenced by impairment. Standard 8, I feel, is extremely important for all teachers and school staff. We are public servants. We're constantly in the public eye. And as a teacher, I am a role model to not only my students, but to my community. And it is very important that we as educators lead by example. Next, we asked several group members, teachers, and MAT grad students a series of questions regarding the Arkansas Code of Ethics and social media usage. Here are the questions and some of their responses. Alicia Monk said, "The Code of Ethics explains in detail the do's and don'ts of remaining professional in this day and age. Technology is something we rely on, and possibly more so now than ever due to COVID. I think that I will continue to use social media as a tool to reach out to my students, and always keep in mind to hold myself to a professional standard when using social media as a main resource tool for communication." Maddie Milani writes, "Using social media in the classroom can be a great way to use intentional technology. For example, creating a classroom Facebook account can be a great way to share with parents and the community what amazing things are happening at the school and in the classroom. The Code of Ethics is very clear on what is considered appropriate social media behavior. Therefore, I will follow, respect, and practice the Code of Ethics. It is important to share with the students the Code of Ethics because they were created to protect them. Any social media and/or technology usage in a classroom setting should be monitored." As a social media user for educational purposes, how can you be sure you are abiding by the Code of Ethics? Alicia Monk writes, "I can make sure that I am abiding by the Code of Ethics when using social media by using correct grammar, speaking only of school-related subjects, posting photos and reminders that refrain to class only, and setting up office hours and responding to them in a timely manner. Example, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sarah Moore writes, "Establishing social media accounts for students to follow that are expressly dedicated to the class. As Alicia has said, this can help to ensure an instructor follows the Code of Ethics. By extension, Personal accounts should be set to private, with higher levels of viewing and security for educators that the rest of the population might use in order to both protect ourselves and our students. How will the Code of Ethics dictate how you will use social media personally? Devin writes, some ways the Code of Ethics dictates my personal use of social media are in the content I post. While I may post some silly things my students have said or their artwork, I will never post their faces, names, or any other identifying artifacts. I am also careful to respect the confidentiality of all of my students by refraining from posting or commenting on their grades or other matters I am entrusted with on a public platform. Personally, I limit and monitor my social media use as a high school teacher. I know the public is watching me at all times. As a teacher, I am a role model and I have to conduct my life on social media in a professional and appropriate manner. Additionally, I only become Facebook friends with my students after they graduate. Maddie Milani. Sarah Moore writes, the Code of Ethics will affect the level of access granted to various people on the given accounts. In practice, I have refrained from posting about my students at the college level, and I intend to carry this practice forward into the high school career. Lakeisha writes, the Code of Ethics will make me more aware of what I post and comment on social media. I make sure my accounts are private, and I model how social media can be a positive tool for parents, students, and teacher interactions. How will this impact your own personal media usage? Devin writes, I always make sure that my social media accounts are not public with the exception of my art business account. I also decided that on social media I will go by my middle name rather than my name students know me as. This also means that students and parents have a harder time finding me on social media in the first place. I have been asked by my students many times to follow them on Instagram or add them on PlayStation Live, but I make sure to explain to them that I cannot do that and why. I explain to all of my students that it is unprofessional and inappropriate for us to interact on these platforms. Limit posting and won't post anything political or religious, says Lakeisha Suber. Next is our Kahoot quiz. This is an actual link to the quiz, so we hope you're paying attention. I would also like to go over a few of the questions that you would find on the link. Question 1. Is an inappropriate relationship with a student okay as long as it is outside the classroom? No, it is never okay. Is it unethical for a group of teachers to drink at a bar right after school? I mean, it's 3:30 somewhere, right? The answer is nope. Only if on school premises or school events involving students. So it looks like teachers can have that drink as long as they're not on school property. Let's do one more question here. Miss Ward wants to add her students on her personal Facebook page and messages them often to get to know them. Is this ethical of Miss Ward? Nope. The answer is false. Miss Ward should not add her students to her personal Facebook page. Well, great job, and thank you for viewing this presentation. It's our works cited and sources. Thank you.